you see a lot of people with like these videos and stuff like, oh, how I became a developer in 3 months, but like people don't that aren't in that situation don't realize how rare that really is. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Welcome to today's video. If you're new here, welcome. Today I kind of have like an interesting little video topic that I wanted to talk about. Today I am going to be talking about how I got into coding and programming, or software engineering, whatever the term is that you like to use to call it. But today I'm going to be kind of giving a little bit of the history of myself and how I got into it and how I got to where I am today. So if you're somebody who isn't quite sure if programming and coding is for you, you're interested about how to get started, or you're just concerned that you need a CS degree in order to do this kind of thing, or that you think you have to be great at math, hopefully I can clear up some of that for you today. And so I'm just going to get right into it. So if I wanted to get really specific with this, the first time that I ever probably tried anything programming related was probably one of two different occurrences. Number one was probably modifying MySpace templates. If you're as old as I am and you had a MySpace account, that was probably a lot of people's first exposure to programming, whether or not you want to actually call this programming, because a lot of it was like HTML and CSS and just like super basic stuff that a lot of people don't even really consider programming, because it's like a markup language and it's a whole different type of thing that a lot of people don't really consider programming, because there's no logic to it. And the other first exposure that I would say that I have was also in high school. I at one point or another had this book. It might have been middle school, but I'm pretty sure it was high school. But anyways, I had this book that was I want to say it was in Visual Basic, and it was some kind of like video game programming book. And I messed around with it for a little while, and it never really stuck. I never really like picked up anything from it. But if anybody watching this happens to know me from high school, I was a very different person, and I wasn't really into like learning and like hard, things. I hated math, and like it was this whole thing. I was not the greatest high school student by any stretch of the imagination, and I didn't really find my love for learning until many years later. So to really sum up my experience with that Visual Basic book, yeah, I mean, I messed around with it for a little bit, but I never really got anywhere with it. I never built anything. I just kind of like moved on and forgot about programming for a number of years after that. The next time that I really made an attempt to learn programming was in 2017, which is where my journey really started. So in 2017, and honestly, I don't even remember how I came about the idea of even like giving this a shot. Like I honestly do not remember at all how programming became a part of my life. But I do know that what I tried to learn in 2017 was Python. Now, Python, the reason that I tried to learn this back in 2017 was because if you do any kind of research on the internet, or you look up what is the easiest programming language to learn, a lot of places will tell you that it's Python. And I mean, they're not totally wrong, but if you ask me, Python is not what you should learn first, and this is my own opinion, and I can share my reasons for that as well. So the reason I don't recommend to learn Python first is because Python kind of drove me away from programming because I tried to learn it first. Because you can do a lot of really cool things with Python, but not so much until you have a deeper understanding of programming and the things that you can do with it. It's like trying to learn the back end before you learn the front end, almost. Like if you're looking at like web development, like you would probably lose interest very quickly, because like you can't do a whole lot of things. Like you can't see results like when you try to build a back end before you build a front end. And a lot of people like myself needed some kind of like tangible evidence that like I was building something, and I needed that visual confirmation that I was actually building something, and that like I needed to see it to understand how it worked, basically. And so that was kind of my downfall with Python, was that sure, I was like learning this like looping logic and things like that, like okay, like these are if statements, these are loops, like this is a function, like whatever, you know, all of it's really the same, just syntax is different for the most part. But that was the thing that really drove me away from it, was like, okay, cool, like this is doing this, but like what does that mean? What can I do with it? Well, I couldn't figure that out, so I ended up leaving programming again in 2017, only to return to it again sometime later. I want to say somewhere between 6 months and a year. I came back to it. I briefly tried Python again, and then I switched over to Java. The reason I switched over to Java was because at that point in time, Android was using Java before they like officially made their switch over to Kotlin. So Android development was taking place in Java, and I thought, hey, why don't I learn how to build mobile apps? This is something that even if I don't do it in a professional capacity, I could be, you know, an indie developer and I could make applications or whatever. And I thought that that was cool because there seemed to be a lot of opportunity for mobile developers to kind of like do their own thing, and I thought that that was really cool and exciting, and it was. And so I spent a bit of time by myself trying to learn Android development. I built a couple small things, and then I wanted to kind of level up with that, and it turned out that Udacity was doing some kind of like Google scholarship for their nano degree program, I think it's called, for Android development. And so I applied to it. So I got accepted to it, and then I did the whole first phase of that program, which I think was like a couple months. And then they basically had a second scholarship for the second phase for people that performed really well in the first phase. And I got accepted to the second phase. I don't recall the exact reasons why at that point in time, but my focus kind of shifted out of Android development. I think that there were some factors that became a little demotivating, such as I was seeing stuff on the internet about sprees of indie developers and stuff that were basically being banned from the Google Play Store for various reasons, but like with no warnings, their accounts were just outright banned and they were no longer allowed to have developer accounts, and it basically cut off their entire source of income. So I found that really demotivating because I was like, well, what if, you know, years down the road I was one of these indie developers, and then out of nowhere, like I had this, you know, good source of income from something that, you know, maybe I built that was really popular, and then out of nowhere it gets taken down and my account gets banned, and then I have nothing. So yeah, like the amount of control that companies like Google and Apple have over your livelihood by putting your apps on the Play Store or the App Store. I think it's just the Apple version. But anyways, so yeah, that was, you know, kind of demotivating because it was like you're essentially like self-employed if you're an indie dev, but these companies still control whether or not you have the ability to make any money. And so again, I was kind of lost on myself in my programming journey, and I ended up stopping again for a while. And then towards the end of 2018 into early 2019, I picked up web development again, and I was really enjoying it. I was enjoying, you know, like starting to build websites and like, I mean, obviously like super basic stuff at the time. I was by no means skillful. I sucked at JavaScript. But yeah, so I kind of picked it up again in early 2019, and then really decided to double down on web dev in probably about April of 2019. And at this point in time, this was really when my like in-depth like JavaScript journey began, and I took probably a number of courses I can't even really count. I've used so many resources that I'm so thankful exist. I used Free Code Camp, Udacity, Udemy courses like Colt Steele's Web Developer Bootcamp course. I did the entire course for that. I think I probably touched on some stuff on Codecademy. I've been through them all. And then one of the biggest ones that I'm super thankful for was Team Treehouse. I took so many courses from that were great. The instructors were great, and so I had really felt that I learned so much information from these courses. At the time, I felt like I really knew a lot, and I decided to put together a resume and start putting out applications, which back then I had no idea how terrible at job applications and resume writing I actually was. I learned more about this much later, but yeah, so I put out some applications. I wasn't hustling by any means. I was just trying my luck. I got some denials and a whole bunch of no's, and kind of gave up on myself, but I kept learning and I didn't quit this time. And then in March of 2020, earlier this year, I lost my job due to COVID-19 and its effect on the industry that I was in at the time. And losing your job during a pandemic is not a small situation by any means. It's a very serious thing, and I kind of saw that I had two options. I could make the best of it and kind of like try and change my life this year, and kind of like this like whole new me kind of thing. And I could either do that, or I could sit around and complain and blame myself for losing my job, even though it wasn't my fault. And I chose to go with the first option and turn it into this positive and incredible opportunity. And in hindsight, it turned out that like being let go from my job ended up being one of the best things that ever happened to me. It gave me such an incredible opportunity to pursue this dream that I've kind of been chasing on and off for a couple years now. And honestly, without having been laid off in the way that this year played out, I don't think that any of it would have been possible. About a month later, I think it was about a month later, I kind of made the decision that, hey, like, I wanted to do a code bootcamp before, but I never had the time. Like, I couldn't just quit my job and go do it. But the way that things played out, it finally gave me this opportunity to have the time to go and do it. And I ended up deciding on Hack Reactor. If you followed my channel for a while now, you know that. If you haven't, feel free to check out some of my other videos where I talk about my experience at Hack Reactor, and I'll link some of those up here in the corner. But yeah, it was I decided on Hack Reactor. I did a little bit of their prep course. Fortunately, like, I had already been self-teaching for quite a while, so I already kind of knew like a lot of the basics that the prep course was covering. After doing probably 30 or 40% of that, I decided to just take my chances and take their technical admissions interview assessment. And I did, and I got in on the first try, which was kind of like, wow, like, this is really happening. Like, I'm gonna go to Hack Reactor. And I had some hiccups like prior to getting in with like their financials and things like that, but everything ended up working out. I went into the pre-course, did the pre-course, and then I started Hack Reactor on June 29th, and I graduated September 25th. And now I am officially on my job hunt. I've been hustling on my job hunt, which towards the end of Hack Reactor is when I learned, as I previously mentioned, how terrible I was at writing applications. I wasn't writing cover letters. My resume was kind of garbage. Like, I didn't know how to market myself. I didn't know how important doing outreach was to recruiters and other engineers, and like doing all this networking. I didn't know how important any of that was. And I know that like I think I probably got a little off topic here, but this is like like a 10,000 foot overview of my journey. And like, you see a lot of people with like these videos and stuff like, oh, like how I became a developer in 3 months. But like, people that aren't in that situation don't realize how rare that really is. It does happen, but it's like 1 in a million. Like, the odds of landing a developer job after teaching yourself for 3 months, like with like no boot camp or anything like that, is like astronomically low. And one of the biggest reasons that people quit learning how to code is because it's hard. And they think that because, oh, like this guy did it in 3 months, but I've been doing it for 9 months and I still haven't got a job, like I must not be any good at this. But that's not the case. Like, everybody's journey here is different. Like, I've been, learning on and off, and then like I've been learning on and off for like 3 years, and more like full-time ish learning for 6 months to a year, like dedicating a very high level of time, like my free time, to this goal. Like, it's not something that you can just walk into, but you definitely don't need a CS degree You can do a boot camp or you can self-teach. Like I went the self-taught route and it was only doing so much justice to me. But I felt like I could get more value out of a boot camp, and that's why I did it. And for me, it worked. Like it was 100% worth it to me, but it may not be 100% worth it to somebody else. But if you really do want to get started in learning how to code, just go to like free code camp or get a $25 membership at Team Treehouse. Just try some of those options that are out there that are available to you for little to no money before you commit to something like a boot camp or whatever other options you're looking at. You know, you may decide that you enjoy learning on your own and at your own pace, or you can't commit the time to a boot camp or something like that. Like the self-taught route is totally viable. There's tons of people out there that have done it and gotten jobs in this industry. Like it's possible. It may not take you 3 months. It may take, 6 months, 9 months, a year, 2 or 3 years. Like I've seen it take years for people, and myself included. And I went to a boot camp. Granted, I didn't do it until later in my journey, and I'm still looking for a job, but like I've come a long way since I started this journey. But I think one of the most important takeaways here is that you have to understand that it's not an overnight success. It's not easy, and you don't have to be good at math to do it. Like you can learn basic math as you go, but you don't need like calculus or anything crazy like that. Like you can get really far in like now if you want to be like a machine learning engineer, like this video is not for you. That's like a totally different thing. It requires a lot of math. But if you want to be a developer, like if you want to build iPhone or Android apps, or you want to be a web developer, like you don't need all that. Like you need very little math, and you can get really far in a career with just that. But that's all I really have, you guys. That's kind of the 10,000 foot overview of my journey and how I got here and how I got into code. If you want a 1-sentence summary, I just like to build shit. Like I like to build cool stuff, and that's what I wanted to do. And I just chased that dream. Like I know this is like super cliche, but if I did it and I got this far, anybody can do it. You just have to stay motivated and put your hand down the grindstone and just do it. And I hope that there's other people out there that are on this journey that find value in this video, or if you know somebody on this journey, share this video with them. Hopefully it can kind of help provide some insight. But seriously guys, thanks for watching. If you like this video, please hit the like button. If you want to see more videos like this, hit the subscribe button. And if you have any ideas for any other videos that you would like to see, feel free to drop it in a comment below, and I will see what I can do. Thanks guys.